Hi everyone, thanks for coming. My name's Lesley O'Toole. I'm an international journalist based here. I write for UK and US publications. You have coming the fantastically talented Zulay Henao. Besides her amazing turn in this film, you might have seen her in the Single Mums Club, Destined, Meet the Blacks, or Grow House, and many more. Welcome, Zulay. And I think I just said her name wrong again, so I'm going to have her say it again one more time.
Oh, Zulay.
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 Yeah. Thank you guys for being here on Election Day. I voted. I was going to wear my sticker, and I decided not to.
Apparently, we were meant to wear white today in honor of the suffragettes. We didn't know, but we are, so there you go.
My sister did call me and tell me this morning, but I can't lie and say that I was thinking about it when I put this dress on. It was just serendipity.
Absolutely. Yeah. Now, Jeff Wadlow, the director of this film, also directed Kick-Ass 2, which you auditioned for.
I auditioned
so
for.
Presumably he had you in mind for this. Is this how it came about?
Yeah, I always joke with him. I'm like, I think I was manifesting this. I really wanted that movie. I've never even seen it. I have this weird thing. I get really bummed out, and it takes me like a year or two to watch the movie I didn't get.
I understand that.
Yeah.
So, I mean, did he then call you and say, here's my next one coming up? How did it work out?
No, Jeff and I actually didn't have any contact for that audition, for that process, so I don't think he knew I existed. So he didn't call me, but this time around, I have to really thank Kevin James and his wife. As life would have it, my publicist had me in this little publication in Atlanta. I forget the name of it, and there was an article about this, just me being on the TV show that I'm on, and his wife is sitting there flipping through the magazine, and they had just realized that they were going to recast this part of Rosa, and she was like, oh my God, babe, this is the girl. Remember, we saw her in Fighting. And so they kind of like sat there and looked at each other. This is a story he tells me. I'm not making this up. Then they called my agent directly, and they said, hey, we really want to see her. As life would have it, I wasn't here in LA, so I had to fly back from New York, and I had the opportunity to FaceTime with both Kevin and Jeff, and they gave me really good notes on what they wanted, and I auditioned on a Saturday, and I was on my way to the Dominican Republic on Monday. So it was really nice, yeah.
That's amazing. I mean, presumably you then read the script and were surprised at,
I read it on the plane.
At the part, because, it's not just a total babe part. I mean, there's such enormous scope here, and you get to do so much with it. I mean, I'm sure you were all surprised.
I called my agent, and I said, you think I can get ready for this in a month? He's like, well, you're going to have to do it. I was really a little overwhelmed when I read just how much physicality was involved in this, and sometimes you got to roll your sleeves up and get it done.
But I mean, how unusual is that for you compared with the typical things that you're offered? I mean, I have some old friends from Mexico, who are also gorgeous, and even when they were established, they were still getting offered the maid role. I mean, how has it been for you? I mean, do you feel like you've had to come a long way to earn this sort of part?
You know what? It's extremely gratifying to know that there are not just men, but Caucasian men, and that there are writer-directors out there that are writing such just great material, not just for a woman, but for a Latina woman. And I know they wrote it for a Latina woman because it was, it's based, or you guys saw, it's based in Venezuela. So, I know that I didn't get cast initially for it, and I know that there was a process, but I do feel that in reading it, I was really proud even to just audition for it and to have that material floating around, because they don't come around that often. And so when I tell you that I worked my butt off on that plane and I coached for it, and I was just so prepared because I wanted to show up for myself, but also for the character, for, just for what they put on the page for her.
What were you most nervous about? I read that you were very nervous about the action stuff, although you do have a stunt double for the more difficult aspects.
I was really I wasn't nervous at all about the dance scene, which ended up being the hardest part for me. because tango is actually not as easy. I said to Jeff, why couldn't it be like salsa? I would have been so great at that. Like, we would have had a great movie. But no, instead we have tango. He's like, no, it's much sexier. And I'm like, you're wrong, but okay, we'll go with the tango. The fighting was really hard because it's choreographed, and it was hard. I have inappropriate pictures in my phone.
Share.
I want to really bad, but then I have little cousins and stuff that watch my Instagram. But it was really hard to get all the choreography. And as life would have it, the first scene that we shot is the first scene you guys see of her coming through, busting through that garage into that, and just saving him. That was the first thing we shot. And that was a pretty big fight scene. That took like a week alone, 2 days to work on.
It's always a big scene first, isn't it? If it's not a sex scene, it's going to be a big action scene, always.
Exactly.
Yeah. So can you talk about your relationship with Kevin then? I mean, obviously you had that sort of interesting entree with he and his wife before you even started filming. And he says this was a big stretch for him. So what was it like, working opposite him, watching him go through this process too?
Well, I just have to say before I even get into what his process was, I think that's probably his story to tell, but it was a huge departure for him. And going into it, I remember, because I'm a huge King of Queens fan, like I've watched every episode, I know how it ends, I know how it begins. So having the opportunity to go on set with someone like of his caliber and Andy Garcia and being able to watch them and be and just be in such tight quarters with them, I felt like I was in acting school, again. I felt like it was a big acting class. But Kevin kind of really took me under his wing. He is probably one of the kindest, most genuine people. And I know that you feel like that's what you're supposed to say about people, but no, truly, he's so sweet and kind, and it was really just amazing to work with him. He's a practical joker, too.
Oh, what did he do to you? Anything good? How did he get you?
I got in trouble a lot because I laughed so much, and he'd do it on purpose, and Jeff would look at me and say, we are shooting a movie, so I'm gonna need you to settle down. Yeah.
Because you also have some quite emotional scenes too. Was it during those then? He was making
Of course,
it off?
because that's how he wanted it to be. He wanted me to be so uncomfortable, and he's like, Zulay, settle. And he'd give me that eye thing that he does in the movie, and I'm like, I can't work like this. I can't work like this. I am telling Kevin James I can't work with you.
So what about all that stuff in the movie where you're telling him everyone around you dies and nobody wants to work with you? Were you messing with him or not?
Oh, of course. Jeff had a very clear vision of that, and at first I didn't get it. I'm like, but why do you want me to cry? It's just gonna be so weird. He's like, no, the audience needs to believe that all your partners died. So he's like, I need you to cry, and I need you to sell this. And then he's like, wait a minute. And now when I saw it on screen, it's actually one of my favorite scenes. It wasn't initially when we were filming it. I'm like, this is just a weird way to get there, but I seeing it on screen, I have to say it's one of my favorite scenes.
Jeff was talking about Kevin and his motorbike. He's obviously a very good motorbike rider, and how unusual it is to see actors filming a motorbike scene like that with no helmet, but because he was really good, they put it in the movie. And he was saying he really likes to play to actors' strengths in that way. And I was just wondering if he taught you about that stuff, and if there was anything that you ended up doing that perhaps he didn't think you could do initially.
Yeah. Well, Todd Garner, one of the producers, comes up to me and says, hey, I've got a really good opportunity for you here today. And I was like, we're out in the jungle. I'm like, what is it? He's like, you can be on that helicopter, tied down. You're gonna have one of the best helicopter stunt people. And I'm standing there like, oh, I'm supposed to say yes at this point because, of course I said yes. And I'm up there thinking to myself, this better be the best damn helicopter rider, pilot. And he was really good.
Was it scary though?
No, it wasn't. I was so tied in. I wanted a little more give so I could kind of play a little, but they didn't give me that opportunity.
Wow. So talk a little about your background. You were actually born in Medellin in Colombia, that most of us might know from Entourage, I'm embarrassed to say. But what was that like growing up? I understand that you were quite into the performing arts as a child. You did ballet and stuff. I mean, did you know from a very early age this was what you wanted to do?
I don't think intellectually at 4 I was like, I'm gonna be an actress, but I did play dead and spill ketchup all over my body. So there were things that were pointing in that direction. But I didn't grow up in Colombia. I moved here when I was 4. My parents had a very tumultuous relationship from the moment I was born, pretty much. So my mom, left Colombia and brought my sister and I here when I was 4. And we moved to New Jersey, or to New York initially, and then we ended up going to New Jersey and then up to Massachusetts, because that's my family. That's what we do. What does that mean? Are you Colombian? Oh, I went to Attleboro High School. Attleboro. It's a great school. Hey, I don't like the way you said that, man. I have to talk to you.
Yeah, you sure?
You're like giving me high fives, and it's like, it's a good school.
But were you acting at school already?
I did. I belonged to this thing called ACT, Attleboro's Common Thread, and we did every crazy production, dance off that you could think of. It was fun. We didn't really have anything noteworthy, but it was fun. There was a group of like 10 of us.
And you never did modeling or anything like that as a teenager?
I did. My mom, my mom was. I think my mom wanted to be an actress, and my grandparents just wouldn't support. She grew up in Colombia, and my grandparents were just not very supportive of her. So she made sure that I went to every ballet class, tap, modeling, stuff like that she could enroll me in. Well, I wanted it. I wanted to do it. So she was very supportive. My father wasn't. My father used to always call my mom a dreamer. My mom's the first person. She came here, and then he followed. And my father was at the premiere of the movie last week in New York, and having him be proud and just having him come up to me and say that he's proud of me meant a lot. Well, he's been proud in the past. I'm just saying that it's been a consistent battle. He now calls me. He's like, "How are your auditions going? Are you focusing? What do you have going on now?" And I'm like, "Dad, calm down."
But then before all this, you joined the army, which is such an unusual route. So how did that come about?
I was not very disciplined in high school. I kind of my parents were divorcing. I think this is a story that I believe is true, and I've told myself I was kind of rebellious because growing up, my parents were just so all over the place. I wanted to explore the world and leave, and I started talking to this recruiter that I met in Attleboro High School, and he is talking to this group of people, and I just remember walking by like 4 or 5 times during the week and just like kind of listening, but not really, because I was the only girl there talking, or at least in the vicinity, and I started listening, and I had a conversation with him, and I remember him just talking about I could serve my country, and I could travel, and I could go to school, and it was just all these things. But the thing that just really hit home for me was I could go and explore the world and also serve my country, and my parents were really scared, of course. But I still wanted to be an actress, and I said, okay, well, I don't know how I'm going to have access to that, just because my parents were immigrants, and it wasn't something they supported really. So I said, let me go do this, let me go to school, give me some time to figure things out. But it was always there, that was always part of my plan. And being in the military was probably the single most important thing that I've done in my life, because it gave me such a strong foundation to you really see the world in a different way. I was able to travel to Central America when I was 20 and travel to some really impoverished areas of the world and work as a translator. And I just really saw firsthand, I know we know this intellectually here, that we're so blessed and that we have so many opportunities, but when you go to a third world country and you're working in a space where that's not their reality, you really wake up. So at 20, I was like, okay, I've seen this now. What do I want to do? How do I transition out of this? And I signed up for acting school after like the 2.5 years. I had a plan. I was moving back to New York City, and that's how it happened, really. But it wouldn't have happened, I don't believe, if it weren't for those 3 years that I where I lived a military life, because just the discipline and the lifestyle, you're just there for a mission, and it taught me to make a plan and to follow through.
And then one of your first jobs was on Army Wives, right?
Yeah, it was. I remember that job. Yeah, it's great. I remember booking that and thinking, like, see, I told you, Mom. Like, this Army thing's going to pay off. And yeah, that was... By the way, I played an Army wife. I had no military anything.
And then, I mean, you've done a phenomenal amount of work on film and television. I mean, you mentioned the film Fighting that Kevin and his wife saw, that she played the female lead opposite Channing Tatum. I mean, how has the journey been for you? I mean, have you worked, steadily? Have you had fallow periods? I mean, it certainly doesn't look like it. It looks like you've gone from strength to strength.
It's definitely been that. It's a very... It's a great. It's been hard. It hasn't always been easy. I'm still like, this is part of. I'm beginning a journey. But getting to work with Channing and Terrence gave me a really good platform. 5 or 6 years ago to have an opportunity to audition for certain directors, the Jeff Wadlows, and so everything just builds on itself, and work begets work, and. I pray that, I hope that this will be, this is going to be another platform, and I get to grow and evolve from here. I have a lot of growing to do as an actress. Like, I feel like this is day one, And
you've also got your own production company with your brother, and you're working on a project. Is there anything you can tell us about that?
Yeah, I would love to. I mean, in the spirit of creating your own opportunities, which is something that everybody tells you when you are working with managers and agents, and you're frustrated, and they're like, you just need to create your own material. You need to create content for yourself and tell your own story. And I was always afraid to really dive into that, because I said, I'm not a writer. I know the kind of stories I want to tell. I want to talk about the human condition and what makes me happy or sad, or how I feel when I go to the movies. So my brother, who was also in the military, a lot different from me though. He went to West Point. He's an officer, and he recently got out and was working in finance. Said, hey, why don't we do this together? He's a philosophy major, and we just had a great idea of writing a story about a woman who kind of forgets where she's come from, where she came from, forgets her roots, forgets her heritage, and kind of just life brings her back to it and shows her, that you just can never forget what molded you into who you are. And we talk about a lot of social injustices in the film, especially stuff with the ICE holds and immigration, and also police brutality and racism. And so it's a pretty heavy film all around, but there's also a love story. You always got to throw a love story in there. It's not a romantic comedy, which is what I really want to do, but it's in that general direction. But it's a great vehicle for me, and it's finished. We worked on it for a year, so we've been lucky enough to have a good handful of production companies that are interested in reading it, and it's called The Sound of Humming. And there's a huge metaphor for it, because the sound of humming is that the fact that there's a benevolent spirit and God that's underneath everything. We just forget. So we kind of want to not use the word God, but just use it as a metaphor. So the hummingbird represents that. You'll have to see it or watch it to understand.
I have so many friends who have seen hummingbirds after they've lost people.
I did. Yeah. My grandfather. And my grandfather always said to me that I was like this little bumblebee, because I lived with him when I left the military. He lived in New Jersey, and I was going to acting school in New York, and I said, hey, is there any way that I could come live with you guys? He's like, sure. Well, what are you going to do? And I told him, he's like, absolutely. My grandfather grew old, but he always had this childlike spirit. He never thought things were too crazy or too out of the norm. He just remained a child at heart, and in the best way possible, of course.
So important. Age is just a number.
It's just a number.
I was going to ask you about destiny and whether you believed in destiny, particularly in relation to this film. And you did do a film, Destin, that touches on that. I mean, has it played parts in your life, beyond this movie?
Yeah, absolutely. I do believe that there is a divine plan. You know, I believe in God, and I believe in the fact that there is something inside of me if I choose to acknowledge it, and if we all choose to acknowledge it, that kind of guides us and shows us the way. But it won't come knocking. It's there, but you have to really want it. And so I do believe in that, and I pray all the time. One of my prayers used to be, God, if this is not what you want for me, take me out. Because I don't want to be, I remember going to Subway and buying a whole thing and saying, God, like, I don't want to eat Subway for the right, like, I'd be like, oh, please tell me if this is not what you want me to do. I'll gladly go away.
Yeah. And then I have to ask you about the movie Grow House, in which you starred opposite Snoop Dogg and Malcolm McDowell, which is one of the most amazing pair of actors ever put together in a movie. How on earth was that experience?
Snoop is he's just such an icon. He's just amazing. Yep. And he smells so good. You smell so good. I just wanted to, like, he's very funny and very sweet. Yep. And he told me his son wanted a picture of me, and I said, I want a picture with you. So it was really fun. But I got to work with him again in Meet the Blacks. He's in that as well.
He's in that as well. Yeah.
That's on Netflix now, too, if you guys want to watch a funny movie.
Yeah, that's a spoof of The Purge, which sounds hilarious. And
it is. Mike Epps is really funny.
I started watching an interview where they asked who you'd like to purge if you could, and it was rather relevant to today.
Oh, I said that.
Yes.
I think I was criticized, and I said, well, that's how I truly feel. Why can't we just be honest?
Of course.
I mean, and by the way, the other day I saw on CNN, I don't know, it was a snippet where he looked like he was falling down, but it was like a security thing. I felt terrible. I was like, God.
Where he was hustled off the stage.
I said, God, forgive me. I was like, I do not want this to be the end of Donald Trump. Like, this is not what we want. You guys saw that, right? Yeah.
Yes, I think everybody saw it. And then what about the Single Mums Club? How was that?
That was a really cool ensemble cast. I got to work with Nia Long and Wendy McClendon-Covey, who I love. Especially
she's hilarious.
Yes, she's so funny. But Nia Long, I love Love Jones. I think I told her, I said, I watch this movie once a year, especially when I'm heartbroken. That's like the go. Actually, I need to get it on DVD because I haven't watched it in a long time. But she is really beautiful, really amazing. Wendy McClendon-Covey is such a beautiful person, in and out. So that was a lot. And working with Tyler, that was actually the first time I worked with him. Yes,
you actually have quite a working relationship with him.
We do, yeah.
Can you talk a little about him?
Yeah, I mean, I really feel he's a low-key genius. Like, everything he does is just, he just knows what he's doing with his demographic, and he really likes, or he's really been really successful at telling that story, and kind of putting God at the center, his faith at the center of it, which I find really amazing, because I don't think that is the case. I mean, I don't think that anybody could do it better than him.
No, I mean, he's basically a one-man industry, which must be quite
directs,
inspiring.
Produces,
for you, starting out with your
He directs company. Every one of our episodes, and I'm just like, I've actually asked him this. I'm like, when do you sleep? I don't get it. He's
Sleep
there
is
before
overrated.
us. He's there after us.
Yeah.
Talk about work ethic. You can't compare.
So you said you want to make a romantic comedy. Does that mean you're actively looking at scripts?
Yes. I want a romantic because I love romantic comedies.
Yep.
It would be so much fun.
What are some of your faves?
Oh, I love The Breakup. Mm-hmm. I love that movie. I love, I don't think that's really a romantic comedy.
No, I was wearing that T-shirt this morning.
Were you?
Yes, I was.
Yeah.
Speaking of destiny. Yeah, not really a dark romantic comedy, perhaps, but definitely interesting. Push that
I can't
genre.
think right now what else, but yes, romantic comedies.
Any potential romantic partners for this movie when it happens?
You know what? Yeah, I don't think he would do a romantic comedy, but what's his name? Tom. No, not Tom. Did somebody say Tom Brady? I do love him, though. Tom Hardy. Yes.
Or Hiddleston.
Who?
Tom Hiddleston?
No, I was going to say Tom
Hardy.
Hardy. I have such a...
Hardy
I know,
needs to do a romantic comedy. He needs to get a little lighter. There you go.
with all respect,
put
I
it
do
out
know
there.
he's married.
Yeah, so?
But it's okay. You can
Yeah.
be...
It's the movies.
Yeah, it's the movies. I've had some pretty good love interests. Channing was not a bad guy.
Yes.
William Levy. But if I could have
What about in Takers? Because I remember that a long time ago. Did you have a love
yes.
interest in that? All those lovely
my husband.
men?
My God, why am I? I'm not thinking right now. Wasn't Paul Walker? That's all I'm gonna.
No.
Yeah.
No. What about Idris Elba?
Jay. Yes. Jay Hernandez.
Oh, Jay Hernandez.
Yes.
And did you work with Idris Elba on that? Did you have scenes with him?
No, I didn't have scenes with him. Although I find him incredibly sexy, I did say hi to him at the premiere.
Well, there you go. Perhaps he's a potential co-star then. He hasn't done a romantic comedy, has he?
I don't believe so.
Really? No, he's another one. We're making a
No.
nice list here.
Anybody else you guys want to throw out there?
So what about when you're not working? What keeps you sane?
I just moved to Santa Clarita, so I have a lot of sanity out there. It's so quiet.
Was that intentional to move out of LA?
Yeah.
Is that all a bit much here, a bit too industry?
Yeah, you get overwhelmed sometimes, and you don't have to be in the industry to get overwhelmed with it, right? Sometimes you just want to not hear it, not go to the supermarket and hear. I like to go away. My mom and I just went away on vacation. I like to go on vacation. I love to go out to eat with my girlfriends, work out, obviously. I like to paint. I'm not good.
What do you paint?
Landscapes. I take my paint and my stuff to the beach
I'm sure
with a
that's
bottle of
very
wine.
therapeutic, right?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
It's a lot of fun. And I go back to New Jersey a lot because I have a 2-year-old niece and a nephew on the way. I'm kind of a family. I stay home a lot, and I'm watching CNN when I leave here today.
Yeah. Aren't we all? Well,
Can't believe you guys are here. I love you.
Well, on that note, thank you very much for your time. Congratulations.
Thank you. Did you guys like the movie?
Fabulous performance.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
It's very surprising, right? And
Yeah.
she in it.
I really appreciate you guys coming out. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.